Before we dive into this epic story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to bring you captivating stories and content that ignite your imagination and keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you for being part of our storytelling community. Hercules' early life was marked by great achievements and heroic deeds. He trained under the finest warriors, learned the art of combat, and mastered various skills that would serve him well in his future quests. He married Megara, the daughter of the king of Thebes, and together they had children. However, Hercules' happiness was short-lived. Hera, still harboring her deep-seated resentment towards Hercules, devised a cruel plan to drive him to madness. She struck him with a fit of uncontrollable rage, causing him to lose his senses and commit a terrible act. In his madness, Hercules killed his own wife and children, believing them to be enemies. When Hercules regained his sanity and realized what he had done, he was overcome with grief and guilt. The burden of his actions weighed heavily on him, and he sought redemption for his sins. He turned to the Oracle of Delphi for guidance, and the oracle instructed him to serve King Eurystheus of Mycenae for 12 years and to undertake 12 labors as penance for his crimes. These labors, known as the 12 labors of Hercules, would test his strength, courage, and ingenuity, and would ultimately lead to his redemption. The first labor assigned to Hercules by King Eurystheus was to slay the Nemean lion, a monstrous beast that terrorized the region of Nemea. The lion was invulnerable to weapons, and its hide was impenetrable. Hercules set out for Nemea, determined to confront the fearsome creature. Upon reaching the lion's lair, Hercules observed the beast from a distance, noting its immense size and formidable presence. He approached cautiously, wielding his bow and arrow. As he released the arrows, he quickly realized that they could not pierce the lion's thick hide. Undeterred, Hercules devised a new plan. Hercules tracked the lion to a cave with 2 entrances. He blocked one entrance with boulders, ensuring that the lion could not escape. With his club in hand, he entered the cave and engaged the lion in a fierce battle. Hercules' strength and determination were unmatched, and after a grueling struggle, he managed to grapple the lion and strangle it with his bare hands. Having slain the Nemean lion, Hercules skinned the beast using its own sharp claws. He fashioned its hide into a cloak, which he wore as a symbol of his victory and as protection in future battles. He returned to King Eurystheus, who was astonished by Hercules' feat and hid in terror inside a large bronze jar, fearing the hero's power. For his second labor, King Eurystheus tasked Hercules with slaying the Lernaean Hydra, a fearsome serpent-like creature with multiple heads. The Hydra resided in the swamps of Lerna and terrorized the nearby countryside. What made the Hydra particularly dangerous was its ability to regenerate. For every head that was cut off, 2 more would grow in its place. Hercules set out for Lerna, accompanied by his loyal nephew, Iolaus. Upon reaching the Hydra's lair, Hercules devised a plan to confront the monster. He lured the Hydra out of its den by shooting flaming arrows into the swamp. As the Hydra emerged, hissing and snapping its multiple heads, Hercules engaged it in battle. With his sword, Hercules began to sever the Hydra's heads, but to his dismay, 2 new heads sprouted from each stump. Realizing the futility of his efforts, he called upon Iolaus for assistance. Following Hercules' instructions, Iolaus used a burning torch to cauterize each neck stump immediately after a head was severed. This prevented the heads from regenerating. After a relentless and exhausting battle, Hercules successfully defeated the Hydra. As a final precaution, he buried the Hydra's one immortal head under a massive rock. He also dipped his arrows in the Hydra's poisonous blood, making them lethal weapons in future encounters. Hercules returned to King Eurystheus, who was once again astounded by the hero's prowess. The third labor assigned to Hercules was to capture the Ceryneian hind, a magnificent and elusive deer with golden antlers and bronze hoofs. The hind was sacred to Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, and capturing it without harming the creature posed a significant challenge. Hercules embarked on a long and arduous journey to track the Ceryneian hind. He followed its trail across vast forests, mountains, and rivers, determined to fulfill his task. For an entire year, Hercules pursued the hind with unwavering patience and persistence. Finally, Hercules managed to catch sight of the hind near the river Ladon. Using his exceptional speed and agility, he chased the hind until it was exhausted. At the opportune moment, Hercules carefully ensnared the hind with a net, ensuring that it remained unharmed. He lifted the majestic creature onto his shoulders and began the journey back to Mycenae. On his way, Hercules encountered Artemis and her twin brother, Apollo. The goddess was angered by the capture of her sacred hind and demanded an explanation. Hercules respectfully explained his predicament and his commitment to fulfilling his labors. Impressed by his honesty and dedication, Artemis allowed him to take the hind to King Eurystheus, provided that he return it to her afterward. Hercules presented the Ceryneian hind to Eurystheus, who marveled at the hero's ability to complete such a delicate task. True to his word, Hercules released the hind back into the wild, earning the favor and respect of Artemis. For his fourth labor, Hercules was tasked with capturing the Erymanthian boar, a monstrous and ferocious wild boar that roamed the slopes of Mount Erymanthus. The boar had been causing havoc in the region, destroying crops and terrorizing the local inhabitants. Hercules set out for Mount Erymanthus, determined to capture the boar alive. On his journey, he visited the centaur Pholus, an old friend and wise teacher who lived in a cave on the mountain. Pholus offered Hercules food and shelter, and the two friends shared stories of their adventures. During their conversation, Hercules requested a drink of wine. Pholus, hesitant at first, explained that the wine belonged to all the centaurs and should not be consumed without their consent. However, at Hercules' insistence, Pholus opened the jar, and the aroma of the wine attracted other centaurs from the surrounding area. The centaurs, enraged by the unauthorized use of their wine, attacked Hercules with rocks and tree branches. Hercules defended himself with his club and poisonous arrows, driving the centaurs away. Sadly, during the commotion, Pholus accidentally dropped a poisoned arrow on his foot, resulting in his untimely death. Hercules was deeply saddened by the loss of his friend but remained resolute in completing his labor. Hercules continued his journey and tracked the Erymanthian boar to its lair on the mountain. He devised a plan to capture the beast by driving it into a deep snowdrift. Using his strength and agility, he chased the boar through the forest, forcing it to run into the snow. The boar, exhausted and unable to move, was easily captured by Hercules, who bound it with chains. Hercules carried the fearsome creature back to Mycenae, where King Eurystheus was once again astonished by his success. The king, terrified by the sight of the boar, hid inside his bronze jar and ordered Hercules to release the beast in the wild, far away from the city. The fifth labor assigned to Hercules by King Eurystheus was perhaps the most humiliating and challenging of all, to clean the Augean stables in a single day. The stables belonged to King Augeas of Elis and housed a vast number of cattle. They had not been cleaned for many years, and the accumulation of filth and dung was monumental. Hercules set out for Elis, determined to complete this seemingly impossible task. Upon his arrival, he approached King Augeas and proposed a wager. Hercules offered to clean the stables in one day in exchange for 1/10 of Augeas' cattle. Skeptical of Hercules' claim, Augeas agreed to the wager, convinced that the task could not be accomplished. Hercules examined the stables and quickly devised a clever plan. He realized that conventional methods would not suffice, so he decided to harness the power of nature itself. He redirected the courses of the nearby rivers Alpheus and Peneus, causing their waters to flow through the stables. The powerful currents swept through the stables, washing away the accumulated filth and dung in a matter of hours. Augeas was astonished by Hercules' ingenuity and the successful completion of the task. However, he refused to honor the wager, claiming that Hercules had only succeeded because he had been ordered to do so by Eurystheus. Enraged by Augeas' dishonesty, Hercules took the matter to the courts of Elis, where the judge ruled in his favor and ordered Augeas to pay the agreed-upon cattle. King Eurystheus, upon hearing of Hercules' success, was both impressed and dismayed. He refused to count the labor as one of the 12, arguing that Hercules had profited from it. Nevertheless, Hercules' reputation for strength and cleverness continued to grow. For his sixth labor, King Eurystheus commanded Hercules to drive away the Stymphalian birds, a flock of man-eating birds with metallic feathers, sharp beaks, and deadly talons. These fearsome creatures had taken refuge in the marshes of Stymphalia and were terrorizing the local population. Hercules traveled to the marshes, where he encountered the formidable birds. He quickly realized that their numbers and agility made it nearly impossible to defeat them using conventional weapons. He sought the assistance of Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, who provided him with a pair of bronze castanets. Using the castanets, Hercules created a loud and piercing noise that startled the Stymphalian birds and drove them into the air. As the birds took flight, Hercules seized the opportunity to shoot them down with his arrows, which had been dipped in the Hydra's poisonous blood. His aim was true, and many of the birds fell from the sky, their lifeless bodies sinking into the marsh. The remaining birds, frightened and disoriented, fled from the marshes and never returned. The people of Stymphalia were grateful for Hercules' intervention, and King Eurystheus was once again forced to acknowledge the hero's success. The seventh labor assigned to Hercules was to capture the Cretan bull, a magnificent and powerful beast that had been causing havoc on the island of Crete. The bull had been sent by Poseidon, the god of the sea, as a punishment to King Minos of Crete, who had failed to sacrifice the bull as promised. The creature's rampages were a source of fear and destruction for the island's inhabitants. Hercules sailed to Crete, where he met with King Minos and explained his mission. Minos, eager to rid the island of the troublesome bull, welcomed Hercules and provided him with directions to the creature's whereabouts. Hercules tracked the Cretan bull to a secluded meadow, where he observed its immense size and ferocity. With a combination of strength, skill, and agility, Hercules wrestled the bull to the ground, subdued it, and bound it with ropes. He then led the captured bull back to Mycenae. King Eurystheus, upon seeing the Cretan bull, was filled with awe and fear. He ordered the bull to be released, and it eventually wandered to Marathon, where it would later be defeated by another hero, Theseus. For his eighth labor, King Eurystheus commanded Hercules to capture the mares of Diomedes, a group of wild and man-eating horses that belonged to Diomedes, the king of Thrace. These fearsome creatures were kept in a stable and fed human flesh, making them extremely dangerous and aggressive. Hercules set out for Thrace, accompanied by a group of loyal companions. Upon reaching Diomedes' palace, Hercules devised a plan to capture the mares. He and his companions overpowered the grooms and guards, gaining access to the stable where the mares were kept. A fierce battle ensued as Hercules and his companions fought to subdue the man-eating horses. Using his immense strength and skill, Hercules managed to drive the mares out of the stable and towards the coast. However, Diomedes and his soldiers pursued them, determined to reclaim the prized horses. Hercules, realizing that they were being pursued, left the mares in the care of his companions and turned back to confront Diomedes. In a fierce and brutal battle, Hercules defeated Diomedes and fed his body to the mares. The taste of their master's flesh pacified the horses, making them more manageable. With the mares subdued, Hercules led them back to Mycenae. King Eurystheus, terrified by the sight of the man-eating horses, ordered them to be released. The mares were eventually captured and tamed by the gods. The ninth labor assigned to Hercules by King Eurystheus was to obtain the belt of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. The belt, a symbol of her authority and prowess in battle, had been a gift from Ares, the god of war. Eurystheus wanted the belt as a gift for his daughter, Admete. Hercules gathered a group of brave companions and set sail for the land of the Amazons. Upon their arrival, they were greeted by Hippolyta and her warriors. The Amazons, known for their strength and skill in combat, were intrigued by Hercules and his quest. Hippolyta, impressed by Hercules' reputation and honor, willingly offered to give him the belt. However, Hera, ever determined to complicate Hercules' tasks, disguised herself as an Amazon and spread false rumors among the warriors, claiming that Hercules intended to abduct their queen. The Amazons, incited by Hera's deceit, attacked Hercules and his companions. A fierce battle ensued, with both sides displaying remarkable strength and courage. Hercules, despite his initial reluctance to fight, defended himself and his companions with great skill. In the midst of the chaos, Hippolyta, realizing Hera's treachery, tried to intervene and stop the fighting. Unfortunately, in the confusion, she was struck down. Hercules, deeply saddened by her death, managed to secure the belt and return to Mycenae, where he presented it to King Eurystheus. The 10th labor assigned to Hercules was to obtain the cattle of Geryon, a fearsome three-bodied giant who lived on the island of Erythea. The cattle were guarded by a two-headed dog named Orthrus and a herdsman named Eurytion. Hercules set out on a long and arduous journey to reach the island of Erythea. Along the way, he encountered numerous challenges and adventures. At one point, he crossed the Libyan desert, where the intense heat nearly overwhelmed him. In his frustration, he shot an arrow at the sun, earning the admiration of the sun god Helios, who lent him a golden cup to aid in his journey. Upon reaching Erythea, Hercules was confronted by Orthrus, the two-headed dog. With a swift and powerful blow, he dispatched the monstrous guardian. Next, he faced Eurytion, the herdsman, and defeated him in combat. Finally, Hercules confronted Geryon, the fearsome giant with 3 bodies and 3 heads. The battle with Geryon was intense and brutal, with Hercules using all his strength and skill to overcome the formidable foe. With a well-aimed arrow, he struck Geryon in one of his hearts, felling the giant and claiming victory. Hercules gathered the cattle and began the long journey back to Mycenae. Along the way, he faced numerous obstacles, including the theft of the cattle by the giant Cacus, whom he defeated to reclaim the herd. Despite these challenges, Hercules successfully delivered the cattle to King Eurystheus, who marveled at the hero's resilience and determination. The 11th labor assigned to Hercules was to obtain the golden apples of the Hesperides, a group of nymphs who tended a sacred garden at the western edge of the world. The apples, a wedding gift from Gaia to Hera, were said to grant immortality and were fiercely guarded by a dragon named Ladon. Hercules set out on an epic journey to locate the garden of the Hesperides. He traveled across vast landscapes, encountering various deities and mythical creatures along the way. One of his encounters was with Prometheus, the Titan who had been condemned to eternal torment for giving fire to humanity. Moved by Prometheus' suffering, Hercules decided to free the Titan. He climbed the rugged mountain where Prometheus was chained and used his immense strength to break the unbreakable chains. In gratitude, Prometheus offered Hercules valuable advice on how to find the garden of the Hesperides and obtain the golden apples. Prometheus advised Hercules to seek out the ancient god Atlas, who held up the sky on his shoulders. Atlas, being the father of the Hesperides, might be persuaded to help him acquire the apples. Hercules followed Prometheus' guidance and journeyed to the edge of the world, where he found Atlas straining under the weight of the heavens. Hercules approached Atlas and explained his quest. Atlas, weary from his eternal burden, saw an opportunity for a brief respite. He agreed to help Hercules on the condition that Hercules temporarily take on the task of holding up the sky. Hercules, confident in his strength, accepted the deal and took the celestial weight upon his shoulders. Hercules approached Atlas and explained his quest. Atlas, weary from his eternal burden, saw an opportunity for a brief respite. He agreed to help Hercules on the condition that Hercules temporarily take on the task of holding up the sky. Hercules, confident in his strength, accepted the deal and took the celestial weight upon his shoulders. Relieved of his burden, Atlas set off for the garden of the Hesperides. With ease, he obtained the golden apples, as the nymphs recognized him and did not challenge his presence. However, upon returning with the apples, Atlas was reluctant to resume his role of supporting the sky. He suggested that he himself deliver the apples to King Eurystheus. Realizing that Atlas intended to abandon him, Hercules used his cunning to outsmart the Titan. He feigned agreement but requested that Atlas hold the sky for just a moment while he adjusted his grip. Atlas, unsuspecting, took back the celestial weight, and Hercules swiftly retrieved the golden apples and departed. With the golden apples in hand, Hercules returned to Mycenae and presented them to King Eurystheus, who marveled at the hero's achievement. However, the apples, being sacred to Hera, were later returned to the garden of the Hesperides by Athena, who ensured that they remained in their rightful place. The 12th and final labor assigned to Hercules by King Eurystheus was the most daunting of all, to capture Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog of the underworld. Cerberus, a fearsome and monstrous creature, prevented the living from entering the realm of the dead and the dead from escaping. This labor would require Hercules to venture into the very depths of Hades. Hercules, undeterred by the challenge, sought guidance from the god Hermes, the messenger of the gods, and the goddess Athena. They instructed him to undergo purification rites and guided him to the entrance of the underworld. With their blessings, Hercules descended into the dark and eerie realm of the dead. As he entered Hades, Hercules encountered the spirits of the deceased and various underworld deities. He approached Hades, the god of the underworld, and his queen, Persephone, with respect and humility, explaining his mission. Hades, impressed by Hercules' courage and determination, agreed to allow him to take Cerberus to the surface, but only if he could do so without using weapons. Hercules ventured deeper into the underworld until he reached the gates guarded by Cerberus. The monstrous dog, with its 3 heads, sharp teeth, and serpent tail, snarled and barked ferociously at the intruder. Hercules, relying on his incredible strength and resilience, approached Cerberus with caution. In a fierce and intense struggle, Hercules grappled with Cerberus, using his brute force to subdue the beast. Despite Cerberus' ferocity and resistance, Hercules managed to overpower and restrain the creature with his bare hands. He then led the subdued Cerberus back to the surface. King Eurystheus, terrified by the sight of the fearsome guardian of the underworld, was once again filled with awe and fear. He quickly ordered Hercules to return Cerberus to Hades, recognizing the hero's completion of the final labor. With the completion of the 12 labors, Hercules' penance was fulfilled. He had proven his strength, bravery, and resilience, earning redemption and glory. The gods themselves recognized his achievements, and Hercules' name became synonymous with heroism and greatness. Having completed his 12 labors, Hercules continued to perform heroic deeds and embark on further adventures. However, his life was not without its trials and tribulations. One such trial came in the form of Deianira, Hercules' second wife, and the tragic events that followed. While traveling, Hercules and Deianira encountered the centaur Nessus, who offered to carry Deianira across a river. As Nessus attempted to abduct her, Hercules shot him with a poisoned arrow. In his dying moments, Nessus tricked Deianira into believing that his blood would ensure Hercules' fidelity. Gullibly, Deianira kept the blood as a charm. Years later, suspecting Hercules of infidelity, Deianira smeared Nessus' blood on a robe and sent it to Hercules. Upon wearing the robe, Hercules was afflicted by excruciating pain as the poisoned blood burned his flesh. In agony, he realized the betrayal and foresaw his impending death. Hercules, determined to end his suffering with dignity, built a funeral pyre on Mount Ida. He lay atop it and asked his loyal friend, Philoctetes, to light the pyre. As the flames consumed his mortal body, the gods looked upon Hercules with favor and compassion. Zeus, recognizing the greatness of his son, intervened and brought Hercules' spirit to Mount Olympus. There, Hercules was granted immortality and welcomed among the gods. He was reunited with his divine family and granted a place of honor among the pantheon of deities. As a symbol of his eternal glory, Hercules married Hebe, the goddess of youth, and together they resided in the divine realm. The legend of Hercules, the greatest hero of Greek mythology, continues to inspire and captivate the hearts and minds of people around the world. His incredible strength, unwavering courage, and indomitable spirit have become the epitome of heroism. Through his 12 labors, Hercules demonstrated that true greatness lies not only in physical prowess but also in resilience, ingenuity, and the capacity for redemption. The stories of Hercules' labors, from slaying the Nemean lion to capturing Cerberus, serve as timeless reminders of the power of determination and the triumph of the human spirit. The legacy of Hercules endures in the annals of mythology, where his name remains synonymous with greatness and heroism. As long as there are tales to be told and heroes to be celebrated, the myth of Hercules will live on, inspiring generations to strive for greatness and to face their challenges with unwavering resolve. If you were captivated by the epic and timeless tale of the myth of Hercules and want more engaging stories and content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to bring you stories that ignite your imagination and keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you for being part of our storytelling community.